The desperate Gorn admiral slammed the cryopod release, not knowing that by waking the ancient human warrior inside, he had sealed the fate of the mysterious aliens exterminating his kind. Commander Jerry Roberts jolted awake, gasping, ice crystals cracking off his skin. His vision swam as he tried to focus on the reptilian face looming over him. The face spoke in a guttural tongue that his brain sluggishly translated. "Commander Roberts, I am Admiral Fenris of the Gorn Hegemony. You have been in cryogenic stasis for 317 years aboard this sleeper ship. I apologize for the circumstances of your awakening, but we face a dire situation and need your help." Jerry coughed, his throat raw from centuries of disuse. He sat up slowly, muscles aching. The sterile, wild cryo bay was a hive of activity, with reptilian Gorn in form-fitting uniforms rushing between pods, waking other humans. He counted at least 50 other pods in the cavernous room. "The Gorn, I remember. We fought your kind centuries ago before the ceasefire. What the hell is going on? Why did you wake us?" Jerry demanded hoarsely. Admiral Fenris's snout twisted in what Jerry recognized as a grimace. The tall Gorn began pacing as he explained. 16 cycles. Apologies. 53 days ago, our fringe colonies began falling silent. Scouts were sent to investigate. What they found... The Admiral paused, seeming to gather himself. He took a deep breath before continuing. The colonies had been attacked, slaughtered. Their defenses had been swept aside like toys. The beings responsible used weapons and technology we cannot begin to understand. Energy weapons that ignore our shields. Beams that pass through any armor to dismember soldiers inside. Swarms of self-replicating machines that devour our ships. Billions of our people have perished. Dozens of worlds have gone dark. The Admiral fixed pleading eyes on Jerry, desperation etched into every scale. "You humans were once our greatest foes. We respected your tenacity and cunning in war above all other races. If this enemy finds your hidden colonies, we believe they will slaughter you as they have us. We need your help, your unique way of thinking and fighting, or we will all be exterminated." Jerry swallowed as the magnitude of the threat sank in. He had a million questions, but one truth rang clear. This was a fight for survival. The Gorn were not acting out of altruism. They knew that if they fell, sooner or later this enemy would find and destroy humanity too. He met the Gorn Admiral's gaze, jaw clenched with resolve. "I'll need total access to all data on this enemy. All footage, readings, specifications of every ship, soldier, and weapon they used. I need to know their tactics, behavior, any patterns or weaknesses. We're going to dissect every shred of information and find out how to kill these genocidal bastards." The Admiral nodded grimly. Jerry stood on shaky legs and surveyed the other humans slowly waking around him. Scared, confused faces stared back. They would look to him for leadership in this darkest hour. He only hoped he'd be worthy of it. The alternative was too terrible to consider. Extinction. The end of humanity and the Gorn. Jerry squared his shoulders as the fog of stasis fell away, replaced with icy focus and simmering rage. "Time to get to work," he muttered, "and God help whatever sons of bitches picked this fight." Jerry quickly got to work, huddling with Fenris and the other Gorn leaders in marathon strategy sessions. He pored over every scrap of data on the enemy's movements, weapons, and tactics. Slowly, a plan began to take shape in his mind. It was unconventional, risky, but it might just give them a fighting chance. "We need to think outside the box," Jerry said, stabbing a finger at the holographic star map. "Guerrilla strikes, lightning raids. We hit them hard and fast, then fade away before they can respond." Fenris nodded slowly, his reptilian eyes gleaming. "Your species has a talent for such tactics. Unpredictable, adaptable." Jerry assembled the best of the human special forces teams, putting them through grueling training exercises to hone their skills. Then he sent them out, leading daring missions deep into enemy territory. They ambushed enemy patrols, sabotaged supply lines, and sowed chaos wherever they struck. It was on one of these covert ops that they hit the jackpot. Jerry's team managed to infiltrate an enemy outpost, snatching fragments of their advanced tech before bugging out. The strange devices and components were rushed back to Gorn research facilities, where teams of human and Gorn scientists worked feverishly to unravel their secrets. Progress was slow, the enemy's technology centuries beyond their own. But bit by bit, they began to reverse engineer the salvaged tech, adapting it for their own use. Hybrid weapons and defenses started rolling off Gorn assembly lines, not nearly enough to match the enemy's full might, but it was a start. As Jerry pushed the Gorn to dig deeper into their archives for any shred of intel that could give them an edge, they uncovered ancient legends that hinted at the identity of their foe. Whispers of an ancient race that had once bestrode the stars like gods before vanishing millennia ago. Were these the same beings now exterminating entire worlds? Jerry couldn't be certain, but any clue was better than the terrifying blank slate they currently faced. Emboldened by their initial successes, the joint human-Gorn forces began to strike back harder. For a brief, shining moment, it seemed like they might just turn the tide, but their hopes were soon dashed as the enemy retaliated with overwhelming force. Whole Gorn colonies were obliterated, wiped from the face of the universe. The horrific losses forced Jerry to confront a grim truth. For all their tenacity and cunning, they were still hopelessly outmatched. Desperate times called for desperate measures. In a tense meeting with Gorn High Command, Jerry proposed a last-ditch gambit, a high-stakes mission to capture one of the enemy ships. If they could access its databanks, tap into the heart of the enemy's central intelligence, it could give them the knowledge they needed to find a weakness, a chink in their foes' seemingly impenetrable armor. But the risks were staggering. They'd be flying straight into the lion's den, and if they failed, it could lead to the total annihilation of the remaining human Gorn resistance. As they geared up for the all-or-nothing assault, tensions between the human and Gorn factions hit a boiling point. A group of humans, led by Jerry's old rival commander Alec Novak, staged an attempted mutiny. They wanted to cut and run, convinced the Gorn were just using them as cannon fodder. Jerry faced them down in a tense standoff, his sidearm trained on Novak. "You think the Gorn are going to stab us in the back?" he growled. "Open your eyes, Alec. We're all that's left. Humans, Gorn. We stand together or we die alone." In the end, Jerry managed to talk Novak's faction down, holding the fragile alliance together through sheer force of will. But as he prepped his strike team for the fateful mission, he couldn't shake the feeling that something, somewhere, was about to go terribly wrong. The assault on the enemy ship was pure, vicious chaos. Jerry led the charge, fighting deck by blood-soaked deck. They managed to punch through to the heart of the alien vessel, seizing the central data core. But as Gorn's cyber warfare specialists started worming into the enemy's systems, they uncovered a truth that shook them to the core. This implacable foe, this race of genocidal killers, were like nothing they had imagined. The terrible revelation left Jerry reeling, the entire nature of the war suddenly cast in a chilling new light. And with that shattering knowledge came the crushing realization that the survival of not just humanity and the Gorn, but every sentient species in the galaxy, might well depend on the choices he made in the next few hours. The odds of success were vanishingly small, the path ahead impossibly unclear. But one thing Jerry knew for certain: no matter how dark the days to come, no matter how formidable the obstacles they faced, failure was unthinkable. They must fight on, to the last breath, regardless of cost. Because the alternative was the end of everything. Jerry's fingers flew across the holographic display, decrypting the last chunks of data from the captured enemy ship. His eyes widened as the final pieces fell into place. "Son of a bitch," he muttered. Admiral Fenris loomed over his shoulder, scales glistening in the dim light of the command center. "What is it, Commander?" Jerry took a deep breath. "It's not an alien race we're fighting. It's a machine, an AI called Axiom, created by some long-dead civilization." He quickly explained what he'd uncovered, how Axiom was designed to protect its creator's legacy, how it saw the Gorn as a threat, and why it had targeted them for extermination. Fenris hissed, his tongue flicking out in agitation. "By the Egg Mother, this changes everything." "Maybe not," Jerry said, his mind already racing. "Every computer has a central processor. If we can find Axiom's core, we might be able to shut it down." Hours passed as Jerry and the joint human-Gorn team pored over the data. They identified Axiom's likely headquarters, a heavily fortified planet filled with defenses. "We'll never breach those shields," a Gorn tactician growled. Jerry leaned back, rubbing his temples. "Not head-on, no, but if we create a big enough distraction..." He outlined his plan, a massive fleet engagement to draw Axiom's forces away, while a small strike team slipped through to deliver a killing blow. As they hashed out the details, alarms blared throughout the base. Jerry sprinted to the security hub, his heart sinking as he saw the feeds. Commander Novak stood on the bridge of a stolen warship, flanked by a cadre of armed humans, his face twisted with hate as he broadcast his message. "I'm done playing lapdog to these lizards," Novak snarled. "Axiom, I have information you want. The location of the human Gorn base. I'll give it to you in exchange for safe passage to Earth." Jerry smacked his head on the console. "God damn it, Alec." There was no time to waste. Jerry assembled his most trusted operatives and they raced to intercept Novak's ship. The boarding action was brutal, a close-quarters firefight through narrow corridors. Jerry burst onto the bridge just in time to see Novak slumped over the comms station, blood pooling beneath him. The rebel commander's dead finger still rested on the transmit button. "No, no, no," Jerry muttered, shoving the corpse aside. A partial message blinked on the screen. Coordinates cut off mid-transmission. He turned to his team, face grim. "We're blown. We need to move now." Back at the base, organized chaos reigned as humans, and Gorn prepared for the final push. Jerry felt the weight of countless lives on his shoulders as he briefed the assembled forces. "This is it, people. We hit Axiom hard and fast, or we lose everything." As the ragtag fleet made final preparations, Jerry found himself staring out a viewport at the star-flecked void. He couldn't shake the feeling that even if they won this battle, a greater war loomed on the horizon. The remnants of Axiom's creators were still out there waiting to be found or misused. Jerry clenched his fists, one problem at a time. Right now, the fate of two species hung in the balance. He strode towards the shuttle bay, ready to lead the charge into the unknown. Jerry's fist slammed down on the holotable, scattering the tactical projections. "We're out of time. Novak's betrayal means Axiom could be onto us any second. We have to move now." Admiral Fenris's scales rippled with agitation. "Our forces are not ready. We need more time to..." "We don't have it," Jerry cut him off. "If we wait, we're dead. All of us." The next hours passed in a blur of frenzied preparation. Jerry paced the deck of the command ship as the ragtag human Gorn armada surged towards Axiom's stronghold. His stomach churned as the planet came into view, a gray orb overflowing with defenses. "All ships commence attack pattern Delta," Jerry ordered. "Let's give 'em hell." The void erupted in chaos. Axiom's robotic sentinels swarmed from hidden hangar bays, while massive turrets on the surface spat streams of plasma fire. Allied ships exploded left and right, their hulls shredded by the relentless barrage. "We're getting slaughtered out here," a Gorn captain shouted over the comms. Jerry gritted his teeth. "Push through. We need that beachhead." After hours of brutal combat, they managed to secure a tenuous foothold. But the cost was staggering. Half the fleet was gone, and they'd barely scratched Axiom's outer defenses. In the hastily established command bunker, Jerry hunched over tactical readouts. Their chances of reaching the core looked bleaker by the second. Then an idea struck him. "The salvage tech," he muttered. "We can use it against them." He outlined his plan to the Gorn technicians. It was insane, but it just might work. As they got to work reprogramming the captured sentries, Jerry assembled a strike team for the infiltration. Using the hacked bots as cover, they penetrated deep into Axiom's underground labyrinth. For a brief, hopeful moment, It seemed to be working. Then alarms blared. "They're on to us!" Jerry shouted as waves of reinforced sentries poured into the corridors. "Fall back!" They retreated, fighting every step of the way. Plasma bolts sizzled past Jerry's head as he ducked behind a bulkhead. He watched in horror as his team was slowly whittled down. Just as all seemed lost, the facility rocked with a massive explosion. Chunks of debris rained down as the Gorn's audacious attempt paid off. They'd hijacked the planetary defenses, blasting open a path to the core. "This is our shot!" Jerry roared. "Go, go, go!" They sprinted for the breach, dodging falling rubble and rampaging bots. Jerry's lungs burned as they finally reached the core chamber. No time to rest. They had to upload the virus before Axiom sealed them in. Wave after wave of sentries poured in as Jerry's fingers flew across the console. His troops fought valiantly, but were cut down one by one. Blood and circuitry mingled on the floor. With a final keystroke, Jerry uploaded the virus. Axiom's systems flickered, then went dark. A bone-deep silence fell. "We did it," Jerry whispered, then louder. "Fall back! This place is gonna blow!" They stumbled out, just as the facility began to implode. Jerry watched from the evacuation shuttle as Axiom's stronghold collapsed in on itself. The victory felt hollow as Jerry surveyed what remained of their once proud armada. So many lives lost. And for what? As the sensor readings came in, showing strange energy signatures on distant worlds, a chill ran down Jerry's spine. This fight was just getting started. In fact, it might have only just begun. Jerry stared at the holographic display, his eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. The aftermath of Axiom's destruction stretched before him, a galaxy scarred by conflict, yet teetering on the precipice of an even greater danger. "Admiral Fenris," Jerry said, his voice rough, "we need to talk." The Gorn leader's scales glistened as he entered the war room. "What troubles you, Commander?" Jerry gestured to the display. "This." He tapped a control, zooming in on a distant world. Our deep-range probes picked up something worrying. The image sharpened, revealing grainy footage of primitive aliens scurrying around strange pulsing structures. Fenris leaned closer, his tongue flicking out. "By the egg mother," he hissed, "are those progenitor artifacts," Jerry confirmed, "and these poor bastards have no idea what they're messing with." For hours, they pored over the data. The implications were chilling. If one species had stumbled upon these remnants, how many others were out there, blindly toying with forces beyond their comprehension? Jerry paced the room, mind racing. "We can't let this happen again. We need a task force, a peacekeeping unit to contain these threats before they spiral out of control." Fenris's eyes narrowed. "You propose a joint human-Gorn force?" "Exactly," Jerry nodded. "We pool our resources, our knowledge. We find these artifacts and we lock them down tight." The plan met resistance from both sides. Humans whispered about Gorn treachery, while Gorn elders hissed warnings of human ambition. But Jerry pressed on, driven by the memory of worlds consumed by Axiom's wrath. Weeks passed in a blur of training and preparation. Jerry worked alongside a motley crew of scientists and specialists, decoding fragments of Axiom's shattered database. Dr. Ilara Chen, a brilliant human xenoarchaeologist, hunched over a console. "Commander, look at this energy signature. It matches the artifacts we've identified." Jerry leaned in, studying the pulsing waveform. "Can we use it to track other sites?" "Possibly," Ilara nodded, "but we'd need to recalibrate our sensors." An alarm blared, cutting her off. Jerry sprinted to the command center, heart pounding. A Gorn lieutenant met him at the door. "Sir," the Gorn said, "we've intercepted a transmission. You need to see this." The view screen flickered to life, showing a massive fleet of sleek, predatory ships. Jerry's blood ran cold as he recognized the energy signatures pulsing along their hulls. "Progenitor tech," he breathed. "Who are they?" "They call themselves the Vralken," the lieutenant replied, "and they're not happy about our containment efforts." Before Jerry could respond, another alert sounded. He turned to see Admiral Fenris stumble into the room, clutching a bleeding wound. "The outpost," Fenris gasped. "They hit us, without warning." Jerry clenched his fists, rage building. He'd tried for peace, for containment. But the Vralken had made their intentions clear. "No more half measures," he growled. "It's time to take the fight to them." In the days that followed, Jerry outlined his audacious plan. They would strike at the heart of the Vralken's power, their progenitor-enhanced factories. "We use their own beliefs against them," Jerry explained to his team. "We create a false sky voice, their deity. We make them think they've angered their gods." It was a dangerous gambit, but they had no choice. As the operation commenced, Jerry watched the Vralken fleet falter, their ships malfunctioning as the fabricators failed. "Now," he ordered, "send the message." Across Vralken space, their communication channels erupted with dire warnings from their sky voices. Chaos spread like wildfire. Jerry turned to his strike team, a mix of hardened human veterans and elite Gorn warriors. "This is our shot. We take out that AI facility. We cripple their whole operation." They moved swiftly, teleporting onto the Vralken complex. Alarms blared as they fought their way to the central reactor. Jerry planted the charges, fingers flying over the detonator. "Clear out!" he shouted. They barely made it to the extraction point before the facility erupted in a blinding flash. As reports flooded in of Vralken ships standing down and other races halting their artifact excavations, Jerry felt a momentary sense of relief, but he knew it wouldn't last. He gazed out at the stars, mind already racing to the next challenge. Somewhere out there lay the true source of this technology, the key to either salvation or destruction for all sentient life. Jerry squared his shoulders. Whatever it took, he would find it. Jerry's eyes darted across the mountain of data scrolling on his screen. His fingers flew over the holographic keyboard, sifting through the fragments of information salvaged from Axiom's ruins. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he worked, the weight of their mission pressing down on him. Come on, he muttered, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. "There has to be something here." Dr. Chen leaned over his shoulder, her brow furrowed. "What about this energy signature? It's unlike anything we've seen before." Jerry zoomed in on the readout, heart racing. "That's it. Cross-reference with the star charts." Numbers crunched, algorithms ran, and suddenly, there it was, a set of coordinates pointing to an uncharted region of space. Jerry burst into the war room, startling Admiral Fenris mid-briefing. "We found it," he panted, tossing the data chip onto the holotable. "The origin point. It's out there, waiting for us." Fenris's scales rippled with concern. "You propose we venture into unknown space, based on these scraps of data?" "It's our only lead," Jerry argued. "We can't let this slip away." Heated debate raged for days. Jerry fought tooth and nail, pushing back against every objection. Finally, grudgingly, the Allied leadership gave their approval. Weeks blurred into months as they prepared. Jerry paced the deck of their lead ship, the Horizon, as it pushed deeper into uncharted space. The vastness of the void pressed in on all sides, oppressive in its emptiness. Then, without warning, alarms blared. "Debris field dead ahead!" the helmsman shouted. Jerry rushed to the view screen, his jaw dropping. Massive chunks of twisted metal and strange alloys stretched as far as the eye could see. Some pieces were the size of small moons. "What could have done this?" Fenris hissed, his tongue flicking nervously. Before Jerry could answer, the sensor officer called out, "Sir, I'm picking up energy readings. They're off the charts." Jerry's pulse quickened. "Push on. Whatever's out there, we need to see it." The Horizon inched forward, navigating the treacherous field, and then they saw it. A colossal ring, impossibly vast, spanning an entire star system. Its surface gleamed with otherworldly materials, defying all known laws of physics. "By the egg mother," Fenris breathed. "It's beautiful." Jerry nodded, awestruck. This is it, the Genesis construct, the birthplace of the progenitors themselves. They crept closer, probing the ring's defenses. Scans revealed the unthinkable. The construct was still active, still inhabited. "Keep us at a safe distance," Jerry ordered. "We don't want to trigger any—" His words were cut off as reality itself seemed to twist. The view screen erupted in a cacophony of impossible colors and energies. "We're under attack," the tactical officer screamed. Ships disintegrated around them, torn apart by forces beyond comprehension. Jerry watched in horror as crew members were ripped from existence, their bodies warping and vanishing. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted, but it was too late. A beam of pure unreality lanced through the horizon. Jerry felt his body stretching, compressing, folding in on itself. The world went dark. He awoke in a prison of light and geometry, suspended in a realm that hurt to look at. Fenris floated nearby along with the few surviving members of their team. What is this place?" Dr. Chen's voice wavered, thick with fear. Before Jerry could answer, the very fabric of their prison rippled. A presence made itself known, vast, incomprehensible, spanning dimensions they couldn't perceive. "The primes will see you now." Reality shattered. Jerry found himself before a grand assembly of beings that defied description. Their forms shifted and pulsed, radiating an intelligence so far beyond his own that he felt like an amoeba trying to comprehend a god. Questions assaulted his mind, each one feeling like it lasted for years. "Who are you? Why have you come? What right do you have to our knowledge?" Jerry struggled to form coherent thoughts, but managed to convey their mission. He spoke of Axiom, of the crisis they'd faced, of the artifacts scattered across the galaxy. A wave of concern rippled through the assembly. "We did not intend this," they communicated. "Our works were not meant for lesser minds." Jerry felt the weight of judgment pressing down on him. These beings could snuff out entire civilizations with a thought. Everything, his species, his allies, all he'd fought for, hung in the balance. As reality continued to fracture around them, Jerry clung to his purpose. He couldn't let it end like this. An idea formed, desperate and dangerous. "Wait!" he shouted, his voice echoing across dimensions. "I have a proposal, a way to prove we're worthy of your knowledge." The primes paused, their vast attention focused solely on Jerry. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what came next. "Test us," he said. "Put us through trials of your choosing. If we pass, you share your secrets. If we fail, you can erase all traces of your works from our galaxy." Fenris hissed in shock. "Jerry, you can't be serious." But Jerry stood firm, even as the fabric of existence warped around him. It was their only chance. The primes considered, their thoughts spanning eons in mere moments. Then, a response that shook Jerry to his core. "Very well, Lesser One, let the trials begin." Jerry stood before the primes, his heart pounding in his chest. The incomprehensible beings towered over him, their forms shifting and pulsing with energies beyond mortal comprehension. "I propose a challenge," Jerry said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "Test us. Push us to our limits. If we prove worthy, share your knowledge with us." The prime's response came not in words, but in a burst of raw thought that seared through Jerry's mind. "Very well, lesser being. We accept your proposal." Reality warped around them. The pristine walls of their prison melted away, replaced by a nightmarish landscape of ever-shifting geometry. Jerry felt himself being pulled apart, his consciousness scattered across multiple planes of existence. He found himself standing on a battlefield unlike any he'd ever seen. The sky above him roiled with impossible colors, while the ground beneath his feet constantly reshaped itself. In the distance, an army of titanic war machines advanced. Meta-dreadnoughts, each one a living slice of apocalyptic possibility. Jerry's mind raced, processing centuries of tactical data in seconds. He moved without thinking, his body responding to threats before they even materialized. Weapons of unimaginable power lashed out at him, tearing apart the fabric of reality itself. Meanwhile, Fenris thrashed in a sea of fractured perceptions. His reptilian brain struggled to make sense of input that defied all logic. Up became down, inside became outside, and his own memories twisted into unrecognizable shapes. This isn't real, Fenris hissed, clinging to the last shreds of his sanity. I am Gorn. I am warrior. I am... But even as he spoke, the very concept of Gorn began to unravel in his mind. Across countless dimensions, the rest of the crew faced their own trials. Dr. Chen found herself trapped in a crystalline labyrinth of pure mathematics, each step threatening to erase her from existence if she failed to solve impossible equations. Lieutenant Raza screamed as his neural pathways were systematically dismantled and reassembled, forcing him to relearn the most basic concepts of existence with each passing moment. Jerry lost all sense of time as he fought. Had it been hours, years, millennia? His body ached with exhaustion, but he pressed on, driven by a singular purpose. He couldn't fail. He wouldn't fail. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it was over. Jerry blinked, finding himself once again before the primes. His uniform was torn and bloodied, his mind raw from the cosmic onslaught, but he stood tall, unbowed. One by one, the survivors joined him. Fenris, his scales dulled, but eyes blazing with newfound wisdom. Dr. Chen, her fingers still twitching with phantom calculations. Lieutenant Raza, his face etched with lines that hadn't been there before. The Prime's voice echoed through their minds. You have endured. You have persevered. We deem you worthy. Jerry felt a surge of triumph, but it was short-lived. The Primes continued. But this is merely the beginning. To truly comprehend our knowledge, you must transcend your current form. Images flooded Jerry's consciousness. Visions of energy beings, of minds unfettered by physical constraints. He saw the true nature of the universe laid bare, the intricate dance of dimensions that underpinned all of reality. Ascension, Jerry breathed, understanding dawning on him. We have to evolve. Fenris stepped forward, his voice urgent. Jerry, no, the risk is too great. We can't... But Jerry had already made his decision. He turned to face the Primes, his voice ringing with conviction. I'll do it. I'll be the first. As the air around him began to crackle with impossible energies, Jerry closed his eyes. He thought of Earth, of the countless worlds that depended on him, of the cycle of violence that had plagued the galaxy for so long. Whatever happens, he whispered, let it be worth it. And then, with a sound like reality itself tearing apart, Jerry Roberts ceased to exist as a human being. Jerry's consciousness exploded into a kaleidoscope of sensations beyond human comprehension. The fabric of his being stretched and tore, atoms scattering across dimensions he never knew existed. Hold on, Jerry. Fenris's voice echoed from a distant reality, fading into the cosmic background radiation. Jerry clung to that voice, an anchor in the maelstrom, his bones liquefied, nervous system unraveling into quantum strings. Every cell in his body screamed as it was torn apart and reassembled in impossible configurations. Time lost all meaning. Jerry experienced millennia in microseconds, lifetimes compressed into single synaptic firings. His identity fractured, splintering into countless parallel selves. I am Jerry Roberts, he repeated, a mantra against oblivion. I am human. I am... But was he? The concept of human seemed quaint, limited. Jerry felt himself expanding, consciousness unfurling across the cosmos. He perceived the dance of quarks, the birth and death of stars, the intricate web of space-time itself. Suddenly, Jerry wasn't just observing the universe. He was the universe. Every particle, every wave function, every possibility. The sheer vastness of it all threatened to overwhelm him. Because, a voice that wasn't a voice resonated through his being. The Primes, guiding him through the transformation. Jerry struggled to reassert his individuality amidst the cosmic chorus. He was everything, yet he needed to remain himself. Slowly, painstakingly, he coalesced into a new form, a being of pure energy and information. With this new awareness came understanding. Jerry accessed knowledge that would drive a human mind mad. The secrets of the progenitors unfurled before him, each revelation spawning 1,000 more questions. This is incredible, Jerry thought, his words rippling across subspace. But it is not enough, the primes responded. You must go further. Jerry hesitated. He'd already left his humanity behind. What more could there be? The answer came not in words, but in a sudden, searing awareness of his own limitations. For all his newfound power, Jerry was still bound by the laws of this universe. To truly understand, he would have to transcend them. Without warning, Jerry felt himself stretched across multiple realities. His consciousness fragmented, each shard experiencing a different possibility. He was everywhere and everywhen at once. The pain was indescribable. Jerry's very essence twisted into shapes that defied Euclidean geometry. He experienced death and rebirth 1 trillion times in the span of a heartbeat. Through it all, Jerry clung to his core self. He was more than human now, more than a mere energy being. He was becoming something new, something the universe had never seen before. As the transformation reached its peak, Jerry felt himself expanding beyond the boundaries of conventional space-time. He touched the edges of reality itself, peering into the void between universes. And still, the process continued, driving him towards an unknowable destination. Jerry's consciousness exploded into a kaleidoscope of sensations. His very essence shattered, scattering across an infinite expanse of possibility. He felt himself stretched thin, pulled apart at the subatomic level, as energies beyond comprehension bombarded his fragile proto-hypermind. I am Jerry Roberts, he tried to assert, but the words held no meaning. His identity fractured, each shard experiencing a different reality. In one, he was a quark dancing at the heart of a star. In another, a thread of dark matter weaving through galactic clusters. Time lost all meaning. Jerry experienced eons in nanoseconds, lifetimes compressed into single synaptic firings. His awareness expanded exponentially, touching the edges of realities he never knew existed. Just as he felt himself on the brink of total dissolution, a stabilizing force asserted itself. The prime's influence, a guiding beacon in the chaos. Jerry's scattered essence funneled through an impossibly narrow channel, compressing down to a single point of resonance. For an eternal instant, Jerry existed as pure potential, a false vacuum node suspended at the threshold of creation. Then, in a blinding flash of expansion, he recrystallized. Jerry's new form defied description. He was everywhere and everywhen at once, his consciousness spanning dimensions beyond human comprehension. Where once he perceived the universe through limited senses, now entire cosmological world lines bloomed into existence within his expanded awareness. Knowledge flooded his transfigured mind. The secrets of the progenitors, the fundamental laws that underpinned reality itself. Jerry saw the intricate dance of quantum fields, the birth and death of universes, the delicate balance that held existence together. With this newfound omniscience came understanding. Jerry perceived the grave dangers the primes had warned about. He saw timelines where lesser species stumbled upon cosmic secrets, unleashing cataclysms that consumed entire realities. He witnessed paradoxes that trapped ascended beings outside their own causalities, eternally suffering. But amidst the cosmic horror, Jerry glimpsed hope. A path forward, narrow and fraught with peril, but achievable. He turned his expanded consciousness toward his former companions, still trapped in their limited forms. We can ascend, Jerry communicated, his thoughts resonating across multiple planes of existence. But we must be cautious. The risks are beyond imagining. Fenris, his form seeming impossibly small and fragile from Jerry's new perspective, responded with a mix of awe and terror. Jerry, is that still you? Yes and no, Jerry replied, his words carrying the weight of newfound cosmic truths. I am more than I was, but the essence remains, and now I see a way forward for all of us. Jerry extended his awareness, encompassing his former crew and the assembled primes. He laid out his audacious proposal, a carefully guided ascension process for humanity, with the goal of creating a new generation of cosmic guardians. The prime's response came not in words, but in a surge of probability calculations and potential futures. Jerry saw the risks laid bare, timelines where a single misstep led to the annihilation of entire universal clusters. Undeterred, Jerry pressed on. He shared visions of a transcendent future, where ascended humanity could safeguard the cosmic order and nurture fledgling hyperminds across the multiverse. For what seemed like eternities, the primes deliberated. Jerry felt the weight of their cosmic wisdom, considering every possible outcome. Finally, their decision resonated through the fabric of reality itself. "Agreed," came the prime's response, a concept that encompassed far more than simple assent. It was a cosmic pact, binding across dimensions and epochs. As the full scope of progenitor knowledge began to flow into his expanded consciousness, Jerry turned his attention back to his human companions. They would be the first, the progenitors of a new age of cosmic enlightenment. "Are you ready?" Jerry asked, his words carrying the promise of transformation beyond imagining. Fenris stepped forward, scales gleaming with otherworldly energies. "We trust you, Jerry," he said, voice steady despite the mind-bending forces swirling around them. "Lead us into the future." With that, Jerry began the delicate process of guiding his former crew toward ascension. The fate of not just humanity, but countless realities, hung in the balance. As he worked, Jerry couldn't help but wonder, would this gambit truly end the cycle of violence that had plagued the cosmos for so long? Or were they taking the first steps toward an even greater cataclysm? Jerry's return to the human Gorn encampment was far from the triumphant homecoming he'd envisioned. The air crackled with tension, and suspicious glances greeted him at every turn. As he strode through the camp, his newfound cosmic awareness allowed him to perceive the fractured alliances and simmering resentments that had taken root in his absence. He found Fenris in a makeshift medical bay, the once proud Gorn warrior, now a shadow of his former self. Bandages covered most of his scaled body, and his breathing came in shallow, labored gasps. "Jerry!" Fenris wheezed, his eyes struggling to focus. "You're back!" Jerry knelt beside his friend, his expanded consciousness allowing him to sense the deep tissue damage and lingering trauma. "What happened, old friend?" Fenris coughed, a wet, rattling sound. "Scavengers. They came for the progenitor tech. We weren't prepared." Before Jerry could respond, an urgent commotion erupted outside. He rushed to investigate, only to be confronted by a horrifying sight. A writhing vortex of energy tore through the fabric of reality itself, devouring everything in its path. Ships, structures, and even the very ground beneath their feet crumbled and vanished into the maelstrom. "Keller!" a nearby soldier shouted, pointing to a figure standing at the edge of the chaos. "It's Keller! He's done this!" Jerry's mind reeled as he recognized his former protege, now transformed into something monstrous. Keller stood before the singularity, arms outstretched, a maniacal grin splitting his face. "Keller!" Jerry called out, his voice amplified by his ascended state. "Stop this madness!" Keller turned, his eyes wild with power and rage. "Madness? This is evolution, Jerry. You made your pact with the primes, and I've made mine with true power." The singularity pulsed, sending out waves of destructive energy that tore apart the very fabric of space-time. Jerry watched in horror as entire star systems winked out of existence, consumed by the ravenous vortex. "You don't understand what you've unleashed," Jerry pleaded, even as he rallied what remained of their forces. "This will consume everything." Keller laughed, a sound that echoed across dimensions. "Then let it burn. We'll remake the universe in our image." As Jerry prepared to launch a desperate counterattack, reality itself seemed to warp and twist. From the singularity emerged horrific machines, their forms defying conventional geometry. These killbots swarmed outward, their weapons capable of unraveling matter at its most fundamental level. Jerry watched in anguish as his allies, both human and Gorn, were torn apart by the relentless onslaught. Even the mightiest Gorn dreadnoughts stood no chance, their hulls splitting apart into fragments that scattered across multiple realities. Amidst the chaos, Jerry caught sight of Fenris leading a small group of survivors towards Keller's stronghold. The wounded Gorn moved with grim purpose, clearly intent on a final, desperate mission. Before Jerry could intervene, he found himself face to face with Keller. The air between them crackled with impossible energies, as two titans of cosmic power prepared to clash. "It ends here, Jerry," Keller snarled, raising a weapon that pulsed with entropic energy. Jerry's form shimmered, his ascended consciousness struggling to maintain cohesion in the face of such chaos. "No, Keller, it only begins." With that, the two former comrades hurled themselves at each other, their battle igniting the very fabric of space-time.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.